So we're going to jump into Tola and Jair. Not very much given about these two guys. They have 5 verses out of chapter 10. So let's just go ahead and read those 2 paragraphs real quick. So, after Abimelech, Tola, son of Pua, son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, who lived at Shamir in the hill country of Ephraim, rose to deliver Israel. He judged Israel 23 years, and then he died and was buried at Shamir. So, we know where he lived, we know the location where he was at, and we know that he delivered Israel and judged over them 23 years. It doesn't go into who's oppressing Israel, it doesn't go into what was the reason that people were being oppressed, if they fall away from God again, what was happening. So, all we know is that he delivered them and he judged over them. It's filling the gap, the time span. And then we have, after him came Jair, the Gileadite, who judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys, and they had 30 towns which are in the land of Gilead, and are called Haveth Jair to this day. Jair died and was buried in Camon. Something I want you guys to look into and possibly question: why is it so important that they bring up the fact that he has 30 sons, and why would he mention that his sons ride on donkeys? And so little things like that. It may not seem like much, but it may actually help you get more information, more interpretation for this one judge. So dig into that and try and question that. Okay, and then we move on to the oppression by the Ammonites and to Jephthah. So, going in, verse 6 of chapter 10, the Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, worshiping the Baals and the Ashtaroth, the gods of Aram, and the gods of Sidon, and the gods of Moab, the gods of the Ammonites, and the gods of the Philistines. Thus they abandoned the Lord and did not worship him. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And he sold them into the hand of the Philistines, into the hand of the Ammonites, and they crushed and oppressed the Israelites that year. For 18 years they oppressed all the Israelites that were beyond the Jordan, in the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead. The Ammonites also crossed the Jordan to fight against Judah and against Benjamin, and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was greatly distressed. So the Israelites cried to the Lord, saying, "We have sinned against you, because we have abandoned our God and have worshipped the Baal." I'm going to stop there real quick. So notice that now it's like, not only are the people being attacked from on the other side of the Jordan by the Ammonites and by whoever's with them, but they're also attacked on this side from the Philistines. So it's like it's caving in on them, the oppression. And it goes as far as to say that Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, everyone is being oppressed by these people groups. Okay? And so we can say that it's not an isolated incident like it has been for several judges. This is pretty much a national thing that's going on. They all turned away from God and worshiped these different gods in different places more than likely. And now all those places are corporately being oppressed. Okay? And you can see that. You can see the different regions will probably sway towards different gods. So the Baals and Ashtaroth normally are like Canaanite and Amorite gods. So that's probably going to be happening up here. Gods of the Philistines are down here, so more than likely it's influencing Judah and Benjamin. The gods of Aram, Sidon, kind of up here as well. Gods of Moab maybe on this side. You see how it's like if you get into the mind of the original reader, remember in the Pentateuch, it's gods are territorial. We especially went into that with Jonah. Gods are territorial. So the land that they own, the land that they're over, is their territory. They are the all-powerful source there. So if the Israelites have fallen into worship of these gods, they're simply practicing what the other people in that area are practicing. Because they believe that this God is in control of this part of the land. So I'm going to worship him, so I'll get blessings from him. Okay? So keep that in mind. Alright? So, the people are oppressed, and then they realize what they've done, and they cry out to God for help. And he goes into this spiel about how he doesn't cry out to your own God. Cry out to these gods that you put your stock in. I'm not going to help you. So keep reading we're going to jump down to 12. The Sidonians also and the Amalekites and the Moabites oppressed you, and you cried to me, and I delivered you out of their hand. Yet you have abandoned me and worshipped other gods. Therefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry to the gods whom you have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your distress. And the Israelites said to the Lord, We have sinned. Do to us whatever seems good to you. But deliver us this day. So they put away the foreign gods from among them and worshiped the Lord. Real quick, so I think it was in the Pentateuch when you guys going through it, is God says that this and this is going to happen if you do not obey the covenant and the law that I've given. If you keep the promises, you will be blessed. If you don't, this is the curses that will happen. However, if there's a generation who turns back to me, doing away with all these things, I will deliver them. So there was a huge question about, not a huge question, but there was a question about, like, why would God say, I'm not going to deliver you when they cry out to him, but then he ends up doing it anyway? Yeah? So the best answer I can give you for this question is, when God says, I won't deliver you, seek the gods that you worship now for help, it's the Lord is setting it up for these people to completely turn away from the idol worship that they're doing. Okay? If they're worshiping idols and they're like, Yahweh, come save us, what's to stop them from going right back into it again? You know, if God just comes in like a mom and just like chews away whatever's happening, you know, they're just going to get right back down into it. But they have to have a heart change in order to fully pursue Yahweh, to pursue God. You know, they have to, on their own accord, under attack or oppression from these people, do away with this idol worship and serve Yahweh. And then he will come in and save them. That's kind of the standard, and that's the purpose, is so that they will remain in him, kind of an idea. It's the best answer I can give to that. So then you see it when we finish up verse 16, it says, And he could no longer bear to see Israel suffer. Then the Ammonites were called to arms, and they encamped at Gilead, and the Israelites came together, and they encamped at Mizpah. The commanders of the people of Gilead said to one commander, Who will begin the fight against the Ammonites? Who shall be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead? So now we go back into the story, but it's kind of distilled. Just that one line, the Lord can no longer bear to see them suffer. I think that kind of plays into this whole narrative we're about to go into with God's deliverance. Yeah, he uses Jephthah to deliver his people, to free them from the Ammonites and the oppression, and possibly even Samson, the story that we're going to go into after this, is happening at the same time, possibly. But you see God, the people cry out to him, he says, I'm not going to deliver you, I've done it in the past and it hasn't done anything, seek deliverance in the God you worship now. And then they realize, you know, like, we need you, God, please just save us. And then their heart change comes and they cast out these old idols, these foreign gods, and they worship, they earnestly seek Yahweh, they worship him. And then he's moved by it and he says, I can't see you guys suffering, just like in Egypt. Like, you know, my people are suffering, I'm going to pull them out of the land. So we're just going to try and run through this. Let's see. So the people cry out, and then we go into this narrative about Gilead and the people there, and it talks about Jephthah. He's the son of a prostitute, and it talks about his mother being a prostitute of Gilead and his father being Gilead. So now Jephthah, the Gileadite, the son of a prostitute, was a mighty warrior. Gilead was the father of Jephthah. So I don't know if this is actually an individual man, or if this is kind of just saying that just the city or the territory of Gilead is his father. This is his the person over him. And then it kind of plays into the idea of his brothers cast him, like send him out, tell him to leave, kick him out. These seem to be later on the lords of Gilead, okay, who are trying to get him to come back and be their military leader. So you could kind of look at it with that perspective. It's not like his literal father and then the literal sons from this one guy. It's the city, the territory is kind of his patriarch, his father over him, and all of the leaders or the men of Gilead don't want him there, and they cast him out. So they send him out and he goes to the land, let's see, he flees the land of Tob, outlaws collect around Jephthah and went raiding with him. So now he leaves, and you kind of see that he seems to be influential, and people are naturally drawn into him, and now he has his own little band of guys going around with him. So this could be another reason why these men of Gilead would want Jephthah gone, is he's very influential. He's the son of a prostitute, which is looked down upon by all people, but like that's all the woman had. Obviously the people aren't following what the Lord has set down, because if they were really sticking to the law, there wouldn't be any prostitutes. But there is. And now the son of one is rising up, who's influential, and the city wants him gone because the leaders there don't want him to rise up as a leader. So that's kind of the picture that I saw in this part. But now, time comes of war, they know he's a mighty warrior, and they want him to come back. So we go into the dialogue of that, verse 4. After a time, the Ammonites made war against Israel, and when the Ammonites made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to bring Jephthah from the land of Tob. They said to Jephthah, "Come and be our commander, so that we may fight with the Ammonites." But Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Are you not the very ones who rejected me and drove me out of my father's house? So why do you come to me now when you are in trouble?" Okay, so we see that kind of fills in that picture of, his father was Gilead, the location, and then he was driven out of it by these guys. Now these guys want him back and, crush him. But we see that Jephthah comes back if he is the commander he's the leader of all of their troops, which they wanted kind of anyway. He comes back, they fight, he dialogues with the Ammonite king. Okay, asking, "Why are you coming up against us?" And they get into this whole argument about, this is my land, you're taking it from me, give it back peacefully and willingly, and I won't harm you. And then Jephthah goes into an argument about how we've been here for 300 years. Okay, now that can help you with your BRI and defense of your BRI. Okay, this story has, at least from Joshua to Jephthah, there's been a 300-year time span. Okay, and so in that, you can use that as internal evidence to help with your BRI, and that this is like 14th century BC when the events kind of started happening. But yeah, the more important thing is that this is his defense against the Ammonites, saying that we've been here for so long, so many generations, and none of your people have done anything about it until now. So why do you think that we have sinned against you? You have actually sinned against us. You are doing wrong to us by trying to take the land that we've had for hundreds of years now. Alright, so they go to battle. Jephthah defeats the Ammonites. But before that, he makes this vow to God, and this is super important. I didn't really know my notes on it. I was an idiot new, but I think it's in chapter 11. It's verse 26. While Israel lived in Heshbon and its villages, and in Aroer and its villages, and in all the towns that are along the Arnon, 300 years, why did you not recover them within that time? Okay. So, before he goes out to battle, he makes a vow to the Lord, saying, "If you give me victory, whatever comes out to meet me first from my house, I will offer to you as a sacrifice, as a burnt offering." And so that's kind of odd, peculiar, but to help you guys with that, like, a lot of houses in that time, they would have it would almost be like two levels. So there would be like a cellar and basement area, and that's where livestock and animals would be kept, and then above that is where, the family would sleep. And that's just a very basic, early Israelite house, so that your animals aren't outside at night. If you don't have like a cave or somewhere to put your animals in, then you would build your house to accommodate your animals. So that's a possible interpretation for this. I don't really know about that, but if you want to try and look into that, I would suggest looking into that and seeing like ancient Old Testament Israelite structures and houses and how they would all of their livestock and such. So anyway, so he promises, he vows to offer to the Lord whatever comes out to meet him first. Okay, then the Lord gives the Ammonites into his hands. They defeat it, and he goes home, and we're here in 11 verse 34. And this is the really difficult part for me. This is one that I still struggle with. I don't really have an interpretation for it, but we're going to read it. Then Jephthah came to his home at Mizpah, and there was his daughter coming out to meet him with timbrels and with dancing. She was his only child. He had no son or daughter except her. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, "Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low. You have become the cause of great trouble to me. For I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I cannot take back my vow." She said to him, "My father, if you have opened your mouth to the Lord, do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth. Now that the Lord has given you vengeance against your enemies, the Ammonites." And she said to her father, "Let this be done for me. Grant me 2 months, so that I may go and wander on the mountains, and bewail my virginity, my companions and I." "Go," he said, and sent her away for 2 months. So she departed, and she and her companions, and bewailed for her virginity on the mountains. At the end of 2 months she returned to her father, who did with her according to the vow he had made. She had never slept with a man. So there arose an Israelite custom that for 4 days every year the daughters of Israel would go out to lament the daughters of Jephthah in the Gileadite. And on that, we're going to take a 15-minute break. So, the question was, what? For this part, what's going on? If in the Pentateuch it says you shouldn't be sacrificing children or people, and there's a price to be paid for each firstborn's life, and all these things, people are being redeemed, and now with the Levitical order set up, the firstborns, God's right to the firstborns of all of the nation of Israel has been transferred now to the Levites. And now they are God. They belong to Him, and they are in service to Him the entire time. Their whole life. That's why they don't get an allotment of land. Their inheritance is servitude to the Lord, just the Lord. So, if that's the case, that's what's been established. Why is Jephthah, a Gileadite, offering his only child, his daughter, unto the Lord as a sacrifice? In the vow part, he says that he'll, let's see, where does it say? 30, I think, verse 30 of chapter 11. "And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord and said, If you will give the Ammonites into my hands, then whoever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return victorious from the Ammonites, shall be the Lord's, to be offered up by me as a burnt offering." So he seems pretty clear. I will give whatever comes out of my door to the Lord. It will be the Lord's, and I will offer them as burnt offering. Meaning no one gets anything from it. It all goes up to the Lord. Okay? So, what do you guys think?
Why couldn't he have redeemed her, like bought her back and given money on a cow or something?
Okay. That's a possible interpretation. Some people go with that. Is that Jephthah redeems his daughter by a price. It doesn't really make sense, though, to the fact that she never loses her virginity. This is the issue.
I think I meant white dingy. I don't think.
Whoa, why dingy? Oh, I have no idea. But that's a possible interpretation. Why? I mean, he could have just, paid the price, and she would have been submitted. The possible reason is, once again, the Levites are not doing their job. They're not fulfilling and fully ushering and possessing their inheritance of teaching the law of people, so they only know in part what it is to be an Israelite and how to acknowledge all of the ceremonies, all the festivals, all of the laws, statutes.
It's kind of a shot in the dark. One of the commandments is obviously not to make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, and since you have made like a deal with God, with upholding that commandment, keeping his word to God, and they kind of take, precedence over, these Levitical, regulations and stuff. So that's why he had to do it.
Yeah, this is the thing is, yes, if you make a vow in the name of the Lord or to the Lord, you have to uphold it.
Yeah.
That's why you shouldn't do that, because if you fail to do it, you are taking the Lord's name in vain, which is one of the top 10, one of the 10 commandments, And so you can't do it, and that's why the whole redeeming the firstborn was set up, was established, that, whatever happens, you can redeem whatever you're going to offer to the Lord by doing this or this. That way, human life is not being burnt or offered kind of unto the Lord. Being paid for a price, so we can continue to live, but there's the reason for the Levitical order and for the offerings, animal sacrifices is so that we're not burning each other up and kind of like a paganistic worship.
So basically, actually, the first part, the beginning, he made that vow, but he was clear about understanding what is exactly what the law is supposed to be. Because if you really know the law, you will not have putting a daughter down to be a
Well, that's the thing, is when he made the vow, he wasn't expecting his daughter to come out to meet him. He made the vow that I will offer up to you whatever comes out to meet me first. Whatever comes out my door, I will offer up to you. So he's,
Whoever though.
yeah, whoever, whatever,
Human.
maybe,
Well,
we don't know.
clear to whom,
It-
not what.
Look at the original translation. Okay, you're probably right, and I'm wrong, but
No, you're
look it up.
right. So do you think it's just showing like a mix of the mindset that they have at that time? Because in the other nations around them, which they've obviously conformed to, child sacrifices are okay. The Levites aren't doing their job. So they have that mindset. Long ago, there's some knowledge that he has of the Lord and needing to fulfill vows and everything, which I think would have been prevalent in the paganistic societies as well, to appease them. So do you think it's just showing that struggle that's going on within them now of mixing Yahweh's laws with pagan laws?
Yes, that is also a possible interpretation. That he doesn't, even though he knows of Yahweh, he doesn't have a full understanding of what it is to be in communion with God. And so he's trying to fill that void of being in communion with God with pagan worship practices, along with worshiping Yahweh. There's one more interpretation.
I don't have an interpretation, but it just seems like, okay, he has one daughter. Who else is he expecting to come out of the door?
It does say whatsoever in the original, which would then, if it's the animal thing, like you were saying with the house, it could have been if an animal came out.
Right, but don't you think, traditionally, he's coming back from war, his family is coming out to greet someone, who's going to come out and see him first? It's not going to be a goat.
Maybe they had dogs for defensive purposes. Maybe a dog would come out and greet.
See, that's the thing, is the standard of what to come out first from the door is literal. Because if they're keeping their animals at night inside their houses, then whatever he owns that has life potentially could come out to meet him. So he could offer anything from his new lamb to his wife. You see what I mean? So this is what's so hard about it, is because he doesn't even actually know what he's going to offer up to the Lord. He's making this vow to try, because he thinks that, I'm going to make a condition with God. If you do this for me, I'll do this for you.
Is there a tabernacle set up at this time?
I don't know. Most likely, it is mentioned in the text, but most likely the tabernacle is still around. Because when we get into Samuel, we see the tabernacle is kind of still a thing.
It seems like, and we still have the stone platform that it was on at Shiloh,
Okay.
so it seems like once they entered the land, was established at Shiloh, and that's where we see it as being at the beginning of the book of Samuel. And we've still got that, like they've uncovered that archaeological site with the holes in the ground where they were installed permanently. So it seems like once they entered the land, the tabernacle went to Shiloh and it stayed at Shiloh. So it seems like it was there.
At the beginning, actually this chapter, mentioned how he was raised. Who is he raised?
More than likely, he goes to the land of Tob, which is, let's see if I can, it's like up here, kind of up towards the top of Pensacola, I think. Completely wrong, I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure it's up this way. And so if he's raiding, he's gonna go Aram, Syria, down into Ammon, Moab, all these places. He can go anywhere. A raiding party is a small attack force that can go in, pillage, and get out before an actual army can be congregated together to fight back. Okay, that's why the Amalekites were, the Midianites, and all these nomadic people are able to oppress, and actually nothing's ever been done about them because they can go in and out no problem. They're just continually moving. Raiding parties and attacking parties, they go in with their bare minimum, they take what they want, they take it back to their caravan or whatever they're traveling with, which is already moving anyway. And at that time we don't have they don't have satellites, they don't have tracking, and all they have is whatever direction this person went off to, we can track them that way. And that's all that they have.
My question, because it's really, it's understanding about what is his character, and who is he raised from, just those foreign nations.
We don't know. It just says that he's with a band of guys and they are a raiding party and they go out and they do what they do. But we do know that he's a great leader, apparently, because people are coming to him to follow him. We do know that the elders of Gilead want him specifically to be their commander, so far that they're willing to leave their town under oppression to seek him out. And if he's leading a raiding party in the land of Tob, he's probably not in one spot the entire time, he's moving around. Okay? So we know that he's important to Gilead in the aspect of a military leader. That's, I think, the more important part that needs to be taken from the fact that he's leading a raiding party. Is that people are coming to him because they acknowledge him as a leader, they acknowledge him as a great warrior, and now he's going to be used as a deliverer of Israel instead of the judge. I want to jump into the final possible interpretation for Jephthah's daughter, and then we're going to move on. One more is that he offered his daughter unto the Lord, meaning into the service of the tabernacle. So that means that she would be dedicated to the Lord for the rest of her life. She wouldn't be able to get married, be under her husband's household or reign, and give him children and do all that. She would be in complete service to the Lord.
Burnt offering.
I know, that's why it's confusing. That's why it's a struggle to understand. This is what the problem is. Did he literally use her as a burnt offering unto the Lord, or did he simply pay the price of a burnt offering unto the Lord in his tabernacle? So in other words, if he offers her in complete servitude to the Lord, that means that he's getting nothing back. It's all going to God. For the rest of her life, she's in service to the tabernacle. So these are the three options you have. I can't find one to confirm one, but
I think you could look for evidence in the book about how those go about too. One thing is, it just says that he fulfilled his vow, right?
yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't looked at judges in a long time for this sort of thing. It seems like all the judges who screw up and do what the Lord doesn't want done, it gets pretty outlined for us.
Yeah.
And every specific thing they do that's against the Levitical law.
Yep.
And so this just says he fulfilled his vow. It doesn't say he sacrificed her on an altar.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that he says it's going to be a burnt offering, all of it's going to go to God, but when it says the fulfillment, it just says he fulfilled his vow. And it seems like the Lord accepted the vow that he fulfilled. Because then we go in and we see how we go in and he has this intertribal dissension with Ephraim, and he completely annihilates them with the men of Gilead, and it
so it seems like God's still with him as a leader after this whole shebang with his daughter. So, it's not easy, but there is a logical explanation that keeps Jephthah in the right. You just have to come to that conclusion. What can she do? There's a position, I can't remember right now, but there is a position for women in the chapter. They had a certain spot, and they had things that they would perform and carry out. And you see that because in Samuel, Eli's sons are sleeping with these women. So these women are meant to be in service to the Lord, but Eli's sons are taking them and using them for their own.
So it's impossible will be a
It's impossible to be a temple prostitute. Mainly because God says no, and you can't.
No, because also that's people are so messed up. They
Yeah,
really understand what's going on.
Yes, but at the tabernacle with Yahweh, they know that they can't do it. They know that that's not a way of worshiping.
Look at it this way, if they did that at the tabernacle, fire would come out and consume them.
Yeah. Remember,
The presence of the Lord is there. So,
Okay, wouldn't the fire of the Lord consume if he is burning his daughter on the altar, like
Yeah.
Molech? Like, that's what I
that's the
can't
thing,
wrap my
if he
mind
does it at
around.
the tabernacle, yes. But what if he's not doing it at the tabernacle? See, this is the thing, it doesn't give you a location, it just says he fulfills the vow. He doesn't say how he fulfills the vow, he just fulfills the vow. So, that's all the time we have for that, we're gonna move on. Thank you so much. Okay, so we see how the Ephraimites are upset with him because they didn't get called out to fight against the Ammonites, and they didn't get any of the glory. It relates back to this idea that Ephraim thinks that it is the ordained leader of Israel. They should be leading Israel in all of its endeavors. But, once again, they're not. They're on the backside of it. And so they get into this fight with the men of Gilead. The men of Gilead beat them, and now whenever the Ephraimites are trying to cross over the Jordan, they'll stop them. They get them to try and say this one word, which they can't pronounce. So if they can't pronounce it, they kill. Pretty bad. Because just the culture that I'm from, if you can spot Northerners. They are a sore thumb. Okay, if someone comes down to the south, they just have to open their mouth once and like, you ain't from here. You know, and so I like to imagine it's the same thing.
I'm sorry, did you say you ain't from around here? Y'all ain't from here.
There's many ways to say many different things. You would know that if you were a Southerner. Oh. All right, so we're going to move on to Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon. These guys, very short again, so let's read it, verses 8 to chapter 12. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. He had 30 sons. He gave his 30 daughters in marriage outside his clan and brought in 30 young women from outside for his sons. He judged Israel 7 years. Okay, then Ibzan died and he was buried at Bethlehem. Okay, very short, simple, strict case. After him, Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. Then Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried at Al-Halon in the land of Zebulun. Once again, very short, just a time filler, it seems like. Verse 13. After him, Abdon, son of Hillel, the Parathonite, judged Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys. He judged Israel 8 years. Then Abdon, son of Hillel, the Parathonite, died and was buried at Parathon in the land of Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites. So this little thing, nitpicking kind of, but the donkeys thing comes up again. Okay, so I want you guys to really just look at it. What does that mean? Why is it important to mention that this guy's descendants rode on donkeys in his time? He had 40 sons, 30 grandsons, and all of them rode on 70 donkeys.